The carriage wheels crunched on the gravel, shattering the countryside's silence. It was September 1885, but for Mary there was no peace, only the relentless ache of grief. She'd come from London to her late husband's aunt's house, urged by family to seek new beginnings, but solace felt impossible. The house loomed, grey and watchful, its windows empty, the air thick with memories and loss. Mary moved through the rooms like a ghost, unable to connect, her sorrow deepening in the unfamiliar quiet. That night, in a strange bed, she stared into the darkness, feeling the weight of her grief and the sense that something else, something unknown, waited for her in the shadows. In this quiet corner of England, the past was meant to be buried, but Mary sensed her story was only beginning. Sleep brought no peace, no gentle respite from the day's sorrows, no comforting oblivion. Instead, it offered a treacherous passage into a realm of shadows. Only a vivid, terrifying dream, a landscape woven from her deepest fears and anxieties. The kind of dream that clings to you long after you've opened your eyes, leaving a residue of dread. Mary stood barefoot in a moonlit field, the cool grass a stark contrast to the burning heat of her anxiety. She felt drawn toward a dilapidated shed in the distance, an ominous silhouette against the pale moon, pulled by a force she couldn't resist, a morbid curiosity overriding her instincts. Dread coiled in her stomach as she approached, each step heavier than the last, the air growing colder, the silence more profound. The shed loomed before her, a skeletal structure of rotting wood and broken windows. The air was thick with menace, heavy with the weight of unspoken horrors, and a low, suffering moan rising from within, a sound that seemed to claw at her sanity. Inside, shrouded in shadow and dust, a figure lay on the dirt floor, motionless save for the shallow rise and fall of their chest. It was a woman, or what was left of one, skeletal and moaning in agony, her body a canvas of suffering etched by unseen torments. Mary knelt beside the figure, her heart pounding in her chest, pity and terror warring within her, a desperate urge to help battling the primal instinct to flee. But as the figure slowly turned its head, revealing a face gaunt and pale, the face was her husband's, twisted in torment, his eyes filled with an unbearable sorrow. The shock was paralyzing, her blood turned to ice in her veins. She tried to scream, to break the suffocating silence, but no sound came, her vocal cords frozen in fear. The dream fractured, the image shattering like glass. Her husband's suffering face, that mask of anguish burning into her mind, an indelible mark seared onto her soul. She awoke with a gasp, bolting upright in bed, drenched in sweat, her heart hammering against her ribs. The silent scream of the nightmare still echoing in her chest, a phantom pain that lingered long after the vision had faded. The nightmare's horror lingered, a dark cloud clinging to the edges of her consciousness, refusing to fade with the dawn's gentle light. Mary's grief, already a heavy burden, had found a new haunting shape, twisting her sorrow into a terrifying premonition. The nightmare clung to Mary, making sleep impossible. Seeking relief, she crept downstairs for brandy, then slipped outside into the cold, moonlit night. The grounds were eerily beautiful, but loneliness pressed in as she wandered beyond the garden. In the field, she saw it, the same shed from her dream, impossibly real. Dread washed over her, but she couldn't look away. Then, across the field, came the same low, pained moan she'd heard in her nightmare. The line between dream and reality had blurred. Mary was drawn toward the shed, unable to resist. Mary hesitated at the shed's door, the weathered wood a stark contrast to the manicured gardens surrounding the main house. A sense of foreboding washed over her, a feeling she couldn't quite shake. What secrets did this forgotten corner of the estate hold? Fear and compassion warred within her. The moans that had drawn her here were undeniable, a sound of deep suffering that tugged at her heartstrings. But fear, a primal instinct, urged her to turn back, to ignore the cries and retreat to the safety of the familiar. The moans were real. Someone was suffering inside. Each pained sound echoed in the stillness of the afternoon, amplifying Mary's internal conflict. Was it an animal or something far more sinister? The darkness within the shed seemed to pulse with an unknown energy. She entered, her hand outstretched, feeling for the rough-hewn wall. The air inside was thick with the smell of damp earth and decay, a stark contrast to the fresh scent of the surrounding countryside. Finding a woman huddled on the floor, feverish and barely conscious. Her clothes were tattered and soiled, her face pale and gaunt. It was clear she had been here for some time, battling an unseen illness. The stranger's pain was overwhelming, radiating from her like a palpable force. Mary could see the desperation in her eyes, a silent plea for help that transcended words, her body frail and shivering despite the summer heat. The fever raged within her, consuming her strength and leaving her vulnerable. Mary offered her brandy, a small flask she always carried for emergencies. The potent liquid might offer some temporary relief, a brief respite from the relentless grip of the illness, cradling the woman's head and sharing her own jacket for warmth. The shed offered little protection from the elements, and the night would bring a chill that could prove fatal. The fear that had gripped Mary faded, replaced by a sense of purpose. The stranger's suffering had ignited something within her, a deep well of empathy she hadn't known she possessed, replaced by a fierce need to comfort this dying stranger. She couldn't explain why, but she felt a profound connection to this woman, a shared humanity that transcended their different circumstances. She whispered reassurances, her voice soft and soothing, hoping to calm the woman's racing heart. Words of comfort were all she had to offer, a fragile shield against the encroaching darkness, determined not to let the woman die alone. In that moment, Mary made a silent vow to stay with her, to offer whatever comfort she could until the very end. In that cold, dark shed, Mary's grief shifted, the pain of her own recent loss momentarily receding in the face of another's suffering, her sorrow making room for compassion. It was as if the act of caring for another was a balm for her own wounded soul, a way to find meaning in the midst of despair. She kept vigil, her eyes fixed on the woman's face, watching for any sign of improvement, any flicker of hope in the deepening shadows, refusing to abandon the woman to the night. The darkness held its own terrors, and Mary was determined to stand between the stranger and the unknown horrors that lurked just beyond the shed's walls. The world outside was silent, the only sounds the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The quiet was both peaceful and unsettling, a reminder of the vastness of the world and the fragility of life. But inside, two souls clung to life and hope, bound together by a shared moment of vulnerability and compassion. In the face of death, a connection had formed, a bond forged in the crucible of suffering. Mary's act of kindness was all she had to give, a simple gesture of humanity in a world often defined by indifference and cruelty. She would not leave the woman to face death alone, offering her presence as a final act of solace and companionship. It was a small act, perhaps, but one that held immeasurable significance in the face of eternity. The night dragged on, Mary holding vigil as the woman drifted in and out of consciousness. The cold seeped into Mary's bones, but she stayed, whispering comfort and sharing warmth. Her own grief felt different now, transformed by the urgency of another's suffering. As dawn approached, hope flickered. Mary heard a distant wagon. She squeezed the woman's hand, then ran for help. The long, dark night had changed her. Compassion had broken through her sorrow. A new day and a chance for rescue had come. Mary flagged down a farmer who helped her bring the dying woman to the house. The household sprang into action, a doctor was summoned and the woman was cared for. Only when the crisis passed did Mary collapse, overcome by exhaustion and a deep, chilling fever. She fell gravely ill, lost in feverish dreams where reality and nightmare blurred. Days and weeks slipped by in a haze, the ordeal in the shed haunting her restless mind. Mary's act of compassion had come at a cost. She fought for her life, her fate now entwined with the stranger she'd saved. The boundary between past and present, dream and reality, grew thin. Weeks later, Mary awoke from her fever to find the woman from the shed, now healthy, at her bedside. The woman introduced herself and shared an astonishing story. She'd survived a shipwreck, washed ashore on a deserted island with another survivor, a man who spoke often of his beloved wife, Mary. For over a year they endured together, his love for Mary keeping hope alive. Eventually rescued, the man was traumatized and lost to an institution, his identity forgotten. The woman, indebted to him, vowed to find his family, following clues that led her to this very place. Exhausted and penniless, she collapsed in the shed where Mary found her. The impossible connections became clear. Mary's dream, her vigil, and the stranger's journey were all threads in a miraculous tapestry. Fate had drawn them together. The story was far from over. As the woman finished her tale, a hush fell over the room. The candlelight flickered, casting dancing shadows on the walls, as if the very house held its breath. The weight of the story, the years of unspoken grief, hung heavy in the air. Then realization dawned, a slow, creeping dawn that spread across Mary's face like the sunrise. A creak echoed from the hallway, and the bedroom door slowly, hesitantly opened, and there he stood, a silhouette against the dim light of the corridor. He was thinner, his face etched with lines of hardship and experience, changed by the trials he had clearly endured, but unmistakably him. It was a figure from a dream, a ghost returned to life. Mary reached out, her hand trembling, tears streaming down her face in a torrent of disbelief and overwhelming joy. It was a reflex, an instinctive yearning to bridge the impossible gap that had separated them for so long. As the impossible reunion unfolded before their very eyes, time seemed to stop. The world outside faded away, and only the two of them existed in that small candle-lit room. The years of grief and loss, the agonizing uncertainty, melted away in a single miraculous moment of connection. It was as if the universe itself had conspired to bring them back together, defying all logic and reason. The woman who had saved him from the brink, and whom Mary had saved in turn from despair, watched with tears of her own, a silent witness to the power of love and redemption. Her heart swelled with a mixture of relief and profound happiness. The house, once a refuge for sorrow, a place haunted by memories of what was lost, became the stage for a love that had survived shipwreck, madness, and the relentless passage of time itself. It was a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. All questions, the hows and whys of his survival, could wait for another time. In that moment, suspended in time, only love, profound gratitude, and the sheer miracle of their reunion remained. The intricate chain of compassion, sacrifice, and unwavering fate had finally brought them home, not just to a place, but to each other. Their reunion was a powerful testament to the enduring power of hope, the resilience of the human heart, and the mysterious, often unfathomable forces that shape our lives and destinies. The impossible, against all odds, had become real, tangible, and breathtakingly beautiful. The ghosts of the past were finally laid to rest, their shadows receding in the light of this newfound joy. The future, once shrouded in darkness and despair, at long last was theirs to shape, to cherish, and to fill with the promise of a love that had conquered all. The story of Mary, her husband, and the woman who reunited them spread far and wide, capturing imaginations everywhere. No one could explain the prophetic dream or the impossible coincidences. Was it fate, a supernatural bond, or the power of compassion? The mystery remained unsolved, a testament to hope and the strange patterns of destiny. Mary's act of kindness had changed everything, returning what she thought lost forever. Even now the tale endures, a reminder that reality can be stranger than fiction, and that a single act of compassion can spark a miracle. The dream remains a beautiful enigma, echoing through history,